So I want to talk about my goal to read 50 books by the end of May. Um, and I actually am, it is March 31st right now at 9:05 p.m. I'm currently reading The Silmarillion. Put this over here. I'm currently reading The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien, as edited by Christopher Tolkien. I have read several books thus far. I have my list. Basically, I try to track as much as I can my reading from when I start the book. Approximately, sometimes when I start the book exactly, um, and kind of building from there. The reason I have this goal is because last year I had a similar goal to read 50 books by the end of the year, and I actually reached 56 books. So this year got started a little off slow. I finished my first book, Zen of the Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Prissig. I'd been recommended it before. I finished it on January 21st, 2019. And then I finished my second book, The Name of the Rose, by January 27th, 2019. I did a few short books called like Nietzsche in 90 minutes, Plato in 90 minutes, Descartes in 90 minutes, Kant in 90 minutes, Kierkegaard in 90 minutes, Marx in 90 minutes, Wittgenstein in 90 minutes, Gabriel Garcia Marquez 90 minutes. That was by Paul Strathern. And that kind of took me up to February 3rd. And I also sometimes try to get like the location of where I am. So that was February 3rd, 2019. I was at the New Orleans airport. The next book I read was Outliers, The Story of Success by Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell is pretty famous, but one of the people I was working with had recommended this to me. Before I go on a little bit more, I just want to say, like, I felt like reading 50 books really kind of like helped me change my ideas. The rule was last year I was doing my second Master's of Law in tax law at Boston University. And I was reading a lot. I mean, I read a whole bunch of cases, tax codes, regulations, administrative documents, as well as a lot of constitutional issues that I'm interested for fun as well. But I wanted to make a rule. I want to read 50 books that aren't related to work or school. So this is a lot of it. I mean, of course, I've taken classes in the past on philosophy, history, and things like that. But I wanted to expand my mind as much as I can. And I feel like there's this whole world out there. I've done podcasts a lot, and I used to do podcasts all the time. When I was living in Amsterdam, when I was doing my first Master's of Law at the University of Amsterdam in International Tax Law, I was doing podcasts all the time. I had about a 45-minute bike ride to and from my classes that were often like every day starting at like 9 a.m. or sometimes 8 a.m. depending on what was going on. And I would do podcasts all the time. I'd wake up, listen to a podcast, listen to the news, everything from NPR to philosophy podcasts to politics podcasts, even some other podcasts with like ghost stories and things like that. I mean, I just like sampled a whole lot of them as well, and that was like a great thing. I wasn't too much into audiobooks when I was at University of Amsterdam. In retrospect, maybe I should have been. I did listen to a few audiobooks, but they were actually usually when I was home. Usually when I was at home, I'd have my computer playing. Sometimes I'd listen to even political rallies. I really wanted to be as much up to date as possible. I also wanted to like listen to things like the source of like what politicians were saying right from the get-go. But anyway, continuing on after Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, Aristotle for Everybody, Mortimer Adler. My grandma was a big fan. She went to the University of Chicago in the late 1940s after World War II, and they had the Great Books program there, and she was a fan of Mortimer Adler. David Foster Wallace. I've read a whole bunch. I've read his famous essay on the prescriptivist and descriptivist debates online. The Art of Gathering. Someone from the Harvard Club had suggested that to me. Not that I'm a member per se. I guess I'm. I have alumni privileges and I can go to these events, but I'm not really a member of the club. I just sometimes go to events that are open to everybody. Um, the Pit and the Pendulum by Edgar Allan Poe. No, it's a very short story, but I think it counts to get on the list. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. The reason I read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is because my office in Washington, D.C., where I'm actually broadcasting live from, is near the National Portrait Gallery, and I usually go there on Fridays. I'm actually in the National Portrait Gallery sometimes once a week. I was there 2 times this weekend. Today's Sunday. And The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, there, Washington Irving, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is featured a painting there with the headless horseman and the pumpkin. But also there is a portrait of early American literary figures, and Washington Irving is among them, so I kind of wanted to read that. David and Goliath, Malcolm Gladwell, it takes me up to February 15th. Picture of Dorian Gray, Utopia, Sir Thomas More, Phantom of the Opera, Gaston Leroux, I've read that before, but it was excellent. Princess Bride, kind of short. Started in Washington, D.C. in DuPont Circle, Sunday, February 24th, 2019. Finished Monday, February 25th, 2019 at 3 p.m. or around 3 p.m. Awesome. I've seen the movie so many times. I've even seen it in theaters when it was on replay in Harvard Square at the Brattle Theater. 2012 or 13. I have a journal that could indicate when I saw it. Like my personal diary entries. I read The Hobbit, read that several times. I love it. I mean, I remember in the summer of 3rd grade, I just read it, and it was just such a beautiful book. And then I went through all the Harry Potter series for the first time, and I finished that March 29th, which was Friday, at 9:13 p.m., and that was awesome. I had read up to the Goblet of Fire when I was in elementary school, but I hadn't carried it on since there. And currently, I'm reading The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien, edited by Christopher Tolkien. So I really feel like reading all these books has been great. I'm a tax lawyer. I love my job. I think I have a dream job. I absolutely love it. But I think it's good. I want to gain as much knowledge as I can. You know, I think there's something to be said that you can be thinking sort of subliminally. You can have your subconscious doing thinking for you. I think a lot of this is very important. Of course, reading things like Harry Potter is important for being up to date with modern culture and things like that. I absolutely think it's vital and necessary. I also had to take the ethics exam, and I also had to take the New York law exam recently, so that kind of slowed down reading. I have a number of books that my bookshelf is over here that I'm thinking about getting to as well. I often do a lot of digital reading because it's easy on the train and things like that. Even though I have a short commute, that's kind of nice. Not to get too personal, but you know, when you're in the bathroom, sometimes you can take advantage of reading, and that works too. And you know, you just try to read and think as much as you can, but I also think you need to have quiet time, and you need to think to yourself as much as possible. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this talk. Read 50 books. It's a good goal to have.